Hello, Internet. So yeah, mirror match number 7. I'm Taken Master, joined by.
Traptical.
So yeah, usually it's me and RPG doing mirror match, but RPG's RPG's laptop kind of ate the dust, so we have no idea when he'll be back.
Do eat the dust and bite the dust mean the same thing?
Yeah.
All right.
When I'm saying it means the same thing.
Excellent.
But yeah, we have so much been playing, and then some weekly discussion about Nintendo and where are they headed. Are they really up the creek without a paddle, as all the doomsayers are saying, or is it just, people move on and, stuff happens?
Do you have the other memory here?
Yeah. But yeah, I haven't really been playing anything except for not Ghost Recon, Rogue Squadron games. So I played through. Okay, first Rogue Squadron it's kind of hard when you get to like the last two stages, because the first one has a ton of missile batteries that are shooting at you, and you have to bomb them all. Well, you don't have to bomb them, but there's like stuff on the ground you have to bomb. But as the missile batteries shoot at you, you're basically sitting duck that cannot avoid it, and then you get shot down really fast. And then I have a save for one of my games that's on the final stage. The final boss is just like really hard 'cause it's a shuttle that takes a ton of damage. Is that the right one? No. And then I played through Rebel Strike, the second one. That was actually fun because it actually you get to play through the Battle of Yavin, Battle of Endor, like the whole trilogy of like 4, 5, and 6. So that was cool. And then I started to play Rebel Leader, which is Rogue Squadron 3, or Rebel Strike, I mean. So I only got through the first stage though, so I haven't got to my training on Dagobah or any of the other stuff. So, but besides that, I will eventually be playing through Batman Arkham City again, just because I played it again and I got the juices flowing, because I got to play some Batman now. Mm-hmm. And also, I see Sleeping Dogs in my future because it's free on PlayStation Plus. So yay for that! Woohoo! So that wait on handhelds actually, I started playing Lego Star Wars 3, and that's actually not a bad game. Like
which handheld?
DS.
Okay.
I haven't played any of the Lego games, so I played like Lego Star Wars. I played a bit of the first two, I believe, but I didn't really like play too much into them. I played like a bit and I just like stopped. I didn't like go really far into them. But this one's like actually not that bad, like especially for a handheld game, because like I don't know, I put like quite a bit of time into it and I still haven't finished it, but I think I'm nearing the end. So I'm hoping that there's more to it than just being a collectathon, because as you clear the stages, it's basically giving you your stats at the end, and it's saying like you've collected this, and this, but there's still like a lot of stuff that you can go back and get. But I'm fearing that all there's really to do after you play through the game is to go back and collect stuff and like unlock stuff, but it doesn't really add to the experience as far as there being like a story and what have you. But not having seen like the Clone Wars like television series, I'm hoping like it followed that, so I can like just when I watch it I can be like, oh, it's the same thing but with the Lego story, so I can like know what happens and like the characters and stuff, because I never really got to see that. So that's pretty neat. And like the whole like Clone Wars and stuff, I never really beyond episode 2, like all the extended universe stuff, I never really knew what happened. So it's like you get a bit of like the whole Separatists and the Jedi is trying to like protect the Outer Rim worlds and all this stuff. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, story mode, it follows kind of closely to how the series is, though it's not. Clearly, it's not as goofy.
Yeah, because there's like all these parts when like General Grievous is there, but I'm like, wait a minute, he doesn't, or yeah, stuff with him doesn't happen until episode 3. So.
Yep.
It's weird because like to me, I always thought like the Clone Wars itself is just like weird because it's just like a giant valley of filler that like nothing really important really happens, because you have episode 3 where all the stuff happens. So like all the characters that are like even introduced or touched upon in like the Clone Wars, like it's just not really important. Yeah, that too. And like it's just there's like not very much importance there, because all these threads and stuff will be wrapped up by the time you get to the whole Palpatine coming into power. So it's like, well, I guess that's not necessarily true. There's probably like some stuff that's like after Order 66 happens, there's still stuff like dangling, like, oh, I wonder what happened here and stuff. So But yeah, oh yeah, there's also like some cool like vehicle sequences where like you fly shuttles, they have to like shoot down bombers and capital ships and stars. Well,
I
they're not called star destroyers, but they're called like something else. So there's stuff like that that's pretty cool, and that I was not expecting there to be, because like there's, besides just like the on foot sections where you have a bunch of different characters that play differently and have like their like character specific abilities that get you through like the puzzles and stuff. There's like the whole vehicle combat, which I thought was pretty cool. So yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised and enjoying it so far.
nice.
And that's pretty much all I've been playing.
Strangely, I have also been playing a bunch of licensed stuff, though my experience probably not as good. I ended up getting Star Trek because I was like really pumped for the new movie, and looking back,
it looks so good. I was like, why? When I saw the reviews, why?
looking back, I should have known actually, and I can't point to anything specific right now, but I remember watching the trailers or all of the what are they called, dev diaries, where they had that guy who is not even part of the design team. He's just like one of the Paramount execs, and he's talking about, yeah, we weren't going to do it unless it was really going to be good. And there was just some things that he said, and I will find them, but there were some things that he said, and they were just like, that seemed kind of off. And to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, there was a dev diary for the Walking Dead game, the shooter one from Activision, and the exec guy said, it was pretty fun, but it became really fun when they added the crossbow, and then then it became like a Walking Dead game, and I was like, well, hang on a second, like the developers didn't add a crossbow. The crossbow is the sort of defining weapon for the character on the show that is being put into this game. Like, of course there was going to be a crossbow. So it's just like kind of off things where it's like the exec is an exec and doesn't actually understand what he's talking about. I will find them. Like, yeah, there were things like that, but it was just like, insult to injury, because they talked so much about, oh yeah, we know that licensed games are usually really bad, so we took a lot of time to make this one, and so, when you use a lot of time, that means there's a lot of polish, and we got the real voice actors, and blah, 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 and it's like, oh, okay. So, when you hear, oh, they spent 2 years, that's, Uncharted was 2 years, so this should be relatively bug-free. And yet it is like, so many bugs, and not just little, nitpicky things. It's like game-breaking bugs. I recorded one I'm going to upload where the mission, if you complete the mission in a certain way, the system thinks that you both completed it and failed it at the same time. So the fail condition brings up the try again menu where you have to click it. But the succeeded condition saves the game. So what happens? Well, you have to try again. So I hit try again, and I don't have that objective anymore. But it doesn't go to the next one because, yeah, it's just like, what? Yeah, so many bugs like that. It's like, now, every studio has its own system, but usually when they say, it's ready for shipping, that means all of your game-breaking bugs are gone. Clearly that is not the case. And it was really funny because that was the first one I was playing, and this month I got lucky and GameFly really wanted me back, so I spent $1 for a month of GameFly, and the experience was not great, but I did get to play some more licensed games, since those were the only ones that were available. So I got to play Aliens Colonial Marines, and that one is actually, well, compared to Star Trek, it's way better.
See, actually, this is like funny, because I remember back in the day, well, not back in the day, but I used to like be championing the whole, like, we're at the end of the era where licensed games are terrible, and then we get just 3 in a row that are complete terrors, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm wrong.
Yeah,
because
it was crazy.
It's still the case where licensed games still can be crap. It's like Star Trek, Aliens, and Walking Dead, not the awesome one.
Yeah,
from now until eternity, known as the terrible one, not the awesome
exactly.
one. The one that does not have Clementine in
the
it.
terrible one. Sans Clementine. Yeah, Aliens is not actually as bad as I thought it would be. I think the biggest problem with Aliens is that it is not the game that they showed us.
Yeah, the bait and switch.
Yeah, the game that they showed us, it had everything. Like, the atmosphere was just 100%, and it just looked phenomenal. Whereas the actual one, you can actually see where the scenarios and like encounter designs and things like that, it's like there's some interesting stuff. Like they mix it up. It's not always going down a corridor and then you hear the beeping on your motion detector and then aliens come out. There's lots of different things. There's actually a level where you have no weapons. And it starts off really cool because you're walking around and you see all of these alien corpses. And then the other guy on the radio is like, oh yeah, no, not all of them are dead. Some of them are sensitive to sound. So you have to move really slowly. And it's that part, like in the Aliens movie, where the little girl was like waist deep in the water. So you're like trudging through this sort of sewage waist deep in water. And there's like alien corpses all around. And some of them start to move. And it's like, it was really intense. And it was really cool because it's kind of, I guess it's a happy coincidence. Whereas you as the player, you don't know how sophisticated the systems are. So you don't know if the aliens can hear you if you say turn your head. So I was sitting there with my like surround sound headphones and I was walking really slowly through the water and suddenly I hear alien comes up behind me. It was clear that it heard me for some reason and just rushed up behind me and I just stopped moving. And then I didn't die, but I could still hear it in my left ear and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is just like in the movie, that one scene where Sigourney Weaver, her head and she's looking terrified and then the alien is like right next to her and she can't really look over at it because she's not sure, is it going to kill me if I move? And it was the exact same experience. Like, whoa, this is really neat. They did cheapen that part later by revealing that those aliens explode. They're like walking landmines. And like, well, that's kind of dumb because the aliens are supposed to be intelligent. Why would they do that? But yeah, there was some really, I could see the potential. I think that Aliens is a case, both of them, Star Trek and Aliens, are both cases where they ran out of time. Star Trek seems inexcusable because that was one of their main marketing talking points. Like, we spent so much time on it, so it's good. And Aliens, like, it's much less buggy than Star Trek for one thing. And I think if they just polished it a bit more, and I think if I made it, I would have scripted the alien behavior a bit more rather than having them just be, okay, this is the alien AI and this is how they run around and this is how they attack and stuff. If it had been more scripted, then man, that game could have been really cool. But as it is, I think it's okay.
Well, wasn't the other issue also that like it wasn't completely worked on by Gearbox? It was like partial Gearbox and part of the other team.
Yeah.
And they kind of like went back and undid some stuff.
I mean, I guess all of that adds to the sort of troubled development, and they ran out of time. Because what they came out with, you can see that it's like, oh yeah, there were some neat ideas, and I would say this is like an alpha version where all the parts are there. You can play through the entire game. It's just not polished yet. So yeah, I think if they had, and it was never going to happen because of the throwing back and forth between developers, and it's been like, 5 years, and Sega's just, we've paid a lot of money for this game to be made, and we're not giving you another extension. But if all that had not happened, and, they made this game, they polished this version of it, it could have been at least 7s, not the scores that they got. Then I also rented a Family Guy Back to the Multiverse, and that game is actually pretty fun.
Okay, how old is that game? Because I actually just saw it mentioned when I was watching someone's YouTube video, and I was like, oh, I forgot that game existed.
That game is less than a year old. I think it came out a little past the holiday season, so maybe only
that's weird because like the person's video I was watching said basically it was basically ignored by all like press outlets as far as like reviews go, and I saw it was published by Activision. I was like, that's a weird team up of like Family Guy published by Activision, but like nobody really said anything about it, and it's actually not that bad.
Well, I remember Greg Miller on IGN, he reviewed it, and he said it was actually okay. And I saw another review of it somewhere, and their review basically was like, oh, there's no original material in this. It's all, like, recycled one-liners taken from the show. And I was like, well, it's not. Like, I played through it, and it does have an original story. A lot of they're basically, like, the village people in... well, not that. Like, the people in the towns in our...
Oh, yeah.
Like, those people who don't matter, they all say stuff from the show. Like, the main characters, Brian and Stewie, they have totally new lines, and, you know, there's actually a narrative that goes through it, and the gameplay itself is not terrible. You know, it was just like, it felt so bad, because Star Trek was the one I got, and it's like, oh, why is it so bad? And despite everything they said, it still is not a good game. I haven't finished it yet. See, that's another part that it's really long. Star Trek is kind of long, and it's not long as like, oh, cool, I'm getting, you know, more for my money. It's like long and tedious. It's like the corridors all look kind of the same, and just like constantly getting lost. So yeah, it was just very painful. Like, Star Trek, I think, is the worst of these three, even though, you know, you would look at it and you would think Family Guy would be the worst. But actually, the Family Guy game design is kind of okay. They did a lot of variety. There's one level in particular, the chicken fight level, where you can really tell that they put some effort into this game. You know, the people who made it, you can kind of see that maybe the game was low budget and they wouldn't pay for better modelers or whatever, but as far as playing it, it's like, it's actually, it feels like they thought of some good ideas and they were able to get them in, and, you know, it's surprising when you see those in something that you would think would be a cash-in. It was like, oh wow, this area is actually entirely destructible, and that totally adds to what this gag is about. I was like, that's so cool. So yeah, if I had to rate them, I had the most fun with Family Guy. Aliens, the first level, which was the bait and switch, like even the switched one, the sound design is really cool. And I was playing it with the wireless pulse headsets with the bass turned on, and I think without bass you don't hear your guy's footsteps. So when you have the bass, it's like, oh my gosh, it feels like the movie. It's like, this is really cool. It could have been better, but this is not that bad. So I think Family Guy was the most fun I had. Aliens, pretty good, and Star Trek I am still slogging through.
Yeah, it's funny because I was going to get that game because I didn't know it was like a full price $60 game. I thought it was just like a downloadable, you know, quick pickup. And I was like, I saw it on this PlayStation Store. It's like $60. I was like, yeah, I'll just wait on that one. And I'm glad I did.
Good job. Dang.
So I was like, all right, co-op, Kirk and Spock, woo! And it was like, oh, $60. Well, that's not happening.
I actually imagine it would be better in co-op, because a lot of my complaints have to do with, and actually maybe half of them have to do with how worthless your AI character is. It's like, come on, we have things like BioShock with Elizabeth. I haven't seen it yet, but apparently she's amazing as an AI character. We have The Last of Us coming up, and Ellie is supposed to be amazing as an AI character. Even, you know, old Uncharted 2, you know, when your co-op character, or the other character who's AI co-op, never seem to be really, really stupid. But, I'm playing as Spock, and Kirk is just, like, so dumb. Oh my gosh, that was the part I reset so many times, because he just wouldn't do what I wanted. Like, sometimes as you pull up your tricorder, it'll show sort of a ghostly outline of a character, and then it'll say, oh, you can tell your partner to go there to give you a boost. And I was like, oh, cool. So I told Kirk to go over there to give me a boost, and it was like on top of these crates. So he had to climb up them, and he stood there for like a second. And then the moment I went over to climb up, he jumped down. and then he was just stuck. He wouldn't go back up. I was like, come on, move back up here. And he's like, no. And then I found out, oh, I can be here and push square to, get ready to boost him. But, by then it had broken something in his brain, and he decided, nope, you can't tell me to go over there, no matter the command you give me. And it's like, oh. So I just stuck. There's like nothing I could do. Later he was like climbing up and down a ladder. It's like, come on, I'm like 70 meters ahead of you. It's like he couldn't figure out how to get to me. It's terrible. I can go on and on.
I'm sure you can. It's like Revenge of the Terrible License Games.
Yeah.
They still exist.
Can't believe it. This is a bigger bait and switch to me than the Alien thing.
Yeah, see, it's like bringing up the whole like developer diary thing. Like, it used to be the case where like if a game had one of those, you'd be like, oh, it's in good hands because they're showing the game and like all the cool stuff for it, and like it's gonna be pretty cool when it comes up. Now it's like even that has been tainted of even if there's a developer commentary for a game, it doesn't mean it's gonna be awesome. So
yeah, I would say if it is a developer talking about it, then maybe you give it some credence. But if it's a PR guy talking about it, then it's like, why is this even called a dev diary? And I have been burned once, so... Yeah, but that's, and besides the Iron Man 3 mobile game, which actually is okay, they figured out a way to make a cheap, yet non-crappy Iron Man 3 game. Which is kind of amazing. I mean, Sega tried twice $60 Iron Man games that everybody hated. And then this one it's essentially an endless running game. You're Iron Man and you're flying down the road and you gotta dodge stuff and shoot stuff. And you basically do that by, tilting your phone or by tapping on the screen. And then you try to get as far as you can and you get money and then you can build more Iron Man suits. And it's like, I think it's what people want to do as Iron Man, distilled down to the core. They want to fly really fast, they want to shoot stuff with their hands, and they want to build lots of suits. And it's like, and it's free. And it's like, yeah, this is what people want. Why did they even try those other ones? So yeah, that...
It'll be interesting to see, like, in a post-Infamous world, like, if when a superhero game does get made again that's not Spider-Man, if, like, they try to take the open-world route, or if it's just, like, a linear stage-by-stage route, like the Deadpool game, it'll probably be like that, so...
I think it really depends. Do we want to get into that?
Sure, why not?
Well, because I think Spider-Man, I think... for licensed games, you really need someone who's there to fight for the things that the fans think are cool about a licensed property. So, for Spider-Man, people want that swinging around the city. So with Shattered Dimensions, and it was just linear, people didn't like it as much. Like, they want to be able to swing around a city like Spider-Man. They don't want to swing through a linear level quite as... the wall climbing is like, that's not the most exciting part of being Spider-Man, I think. So, yeah.
Like, I guess that makes sense, though, because like, if you like the Wolverine game, that was just a bunch of, like, kill rooms
Mm.
with henchmen. We could just like viciously disarm or whatever that word is.
Remember.
Yeah, dismember them.
Well, I think for Wolverine, the thing that people want to be able to do is like pop out the claws. Like, really, that's all people want. So, I think that was a really nice touch for that, the Wolverine game. Where if you can pop out the claws and like sheath the claws, you're halfway there. Yeah, you need those things. I think that's why Batman succeeds on so many levels because it has everything you would want.
Yeah, it has everything.
Batman, it's like you want to feel like you're really skilled, but you don't want to be actually super skilled.
And it has the gadgets and like all the characters and like the great story.
Like the detective part. I mean, that was insane. I did not expect that would be in there, but in the first one, like all the collectibles thing, like the last one, they don't tell you where it is. You have to solve the mystery of Arkham by yourself and go to that location. It was like, that is really cool. So yeah, post-Infamous World superheroes. I think it depends on the character. What is the one or two things that people want to do as that character, and just let them do that? Like Superman games, I think they fail because games, it would be incredibly complicated to make the Superman game that people want. Because the fantasy of being Superman is being able to essentially do anything. You can, Superman doesn't fly through buildings, but he could if he wanted to. So you should, the player should be able to do everything that Superman can, and then have to choose to be like Superman. And then, I think that's the Superman game that people want. They don't want him flying through hoops or, I don't know, punching minions on the ground. Like, Superman doesn't fight minions. It shouldn't take him a long time to fight minions. If he wanted, he could obliterate all of them. It's like, I don't want to deal with this today.
Make like an evil Superman where he just like has no regard for like the well-being of like his enemies.
Exactly. He's
like laser eyes.
Oh, whatever.
Super punch. Right through the face.
He's like, I don't even need to fly down to the city. I see the bad guys there, and I just burn them from space. That's it. Once the game system is developed that allows developers to make you can do anything. You have all of Superman's abilities, no limits. That's when you can make a really compelling Superman game. Cool. That did not take as long as I thought it would. Hooray! On to Nintendo!
I was trying to like think of a way to like try to parlay Injustice into that, but I was like, yeah, whatever. I haven't played it, so I can't say anything. But people are liking it, so I guess that's always like a good combination, though, just like a game with a bunch of characters from said publishing arm of comic book, having them fight each other. As long as it makes sense. Or even if it doesn't, it's always a good fun time.
Injustice actually has a pretty interesting story.
Yeah. But I guess we can move on to the Nintendo thing.
Sweet.
So, yeah, Traptical said on the Aimless podcast Facebook thing, true or false, does a declining interest in game mechanics and a rising interest in game experience explain the struggles or decline of Nintendo?
Did I hear true? I think it's...
Yeah. For me, I was like on my response, I was like, I'm leaning towards true. Fun is really the only emotion I get when playing Nintendo titles. When I get fear, Dead Space, empathy, Walking Dead, camaraderie, Mass Effect, and other emotions on top of fun, while playing other contemporary games, there are other things. But yeah, basically basically every other game I play that's not a Nintendo game, it's like there's stuff there of like layers of either like character or story or like what have you, like emotions. And it's like, you go to Nintendo games, it's completely devoid of that, because it's like the characters are just so one-dimensional that you don't care about them, but you play them and you're having fun, but that's the real only takeaway you get from that experience. It's like, oh, well, that was fun. So it's like, the games don't really like stick with you as much as they did like when I was like a kid and only played Nintendo games, because like there's so much more out there that can just have such a vast array of different feelings and stuff when I'm playing good stuff. So it's like they don't hold up as far as like outside of the fun factor. It's like, yeah, they're fun, but it's like outside of that experience I had with it is going to stay with me that long when I go to play other stuff, and it's like, oh, this is so much better.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, essentially that is basically what I was thinking, because if you think about it, some of the most renowned games in recent times, The Walking Dead from Telltale, and even Heavy Rain to an extent, their mechanics were not that great. The Walking Dead games occasionally had really wonky controls, and yet it won Game of the Year from lots of different places. And I think that's reflective of how we... And I don't know if it's all gamers, but maybe this core segment that we often refer to, like, they are moving past just mechanics. And I think part of that has to do with mobile games. Because, like, if you think about Angry Birds, is also kind of like a Nintendo game. It's a pure mechanics game. And, there's sort of this rejection of that type of game now because it's, like, casual, and casual is like, the dirty word. Not casual. Go play your own Angry Birds and cut the rope or whatever. Like, pure mechanic games are becoming sort of a second-class game, I think. Nintendo sort of has the benefit of legacy, and we respect what they've done. And, no one really badmouths Mario and stuff like that because, while they are... I feel like Mario games are kind of in a similar vein as Angry Birds. Angry Birds is cut up into little sections. If you cut up Mario into little sections, it would be a similar type deal. Like, you can jump. You have these few limited abilities, and there's just infinite combinations of levels that we can create to test those abilities, or test your ability to use those abilities in combination with each other. And so, I think that has a lot to do with, or like Nintendo's decline, it seems now. I think it has a lot to do with the free-to-play, or not free-to-play, just like free games and these itty-bitty games that you can get for free. Just becoming so prevalent. And it's like, well, why would I get Mario? Or why would I spend so much to get Mario if I can just play this free thing on my phone or on my browser?
I think it's also like a case of like the audience is like evaporating, for like lack of a better word, because it's like anybody that was like enjoying those games, like it's like there's always going to be like I think it's like like you said, it's like the mobile space is like eating away at the pie that like Nintendo has basically held for so long.
Yeah.
Like kids and stuff. It's like they have like smartphones and like stuff like that now, so they can just like play a game that has like mechanics that are like basically decent enough. They don't have to be like the best, but it's like the mechanics are there and they don't really care about anything else. So it's like as long as they're enjoying the mechanics and they're having a fun time playing it, it's like you choose like $1 game or a free game as opposed to like a $50 game on top of the purchase of a multi-$100 box to play the game on.
Yeah, exactly. And the kids aren't buying it themselves as the parents, and they're going to look at it and they have an even more sort of cursory view of it. It's like, oh, this is a game, that's a game. But we have this thing, and we don't have that thing. So here you go.
This is a game. That's a game. Oh man. Wow, actually, like, I never really like that before to compare like the macaroni and cheese games to like Nintendo games. Like, it's kind of weird.
I mean, I was about to say that earlier, but I hadn't thought it through yet, so I didn't. Because it's like macaroni and cheese. Well, he's compared it to like the ones that are all about score. And like, Nintendo games aren't really about score. They're about running and jumping in interesting ways.
I was gonna say something, but I completely forgot. I think I was gonna say something about like if you look at Minecraft, where it's like there's no real story there. At least like when it first came out, like it's basically just like layers of game mechanics as opposed to like just like one or a few just like working in tandem. It's like you have layers like one on top of the other, so it's like you play it, but like it starts out very simple, but the deeper in you go, it just gets more crazy, more crazy, more crazy. Where it's like you have to build a house to like for shelter, and then like go out and scavenge for resources. It just like mushrooms and mushrooms and grows and grows. So it's like it just gets more and more intense.
Yeah, I guess Minecraft is kind of an outlier, but on the other hand, it is sort of, I guess it has emergent, player-created stories, whereas with Nintendo's games, the story is there, it's just very simplistic. So you can't really, I mean, I guess people do with fan fiction and whatnot, but there's not much room for you to make your own story inside of a Nintendo game, for say Mario. Zelda is sort of different in that way, except I guess like through most of the experience of playing a Zelda game, you're basically only interacting with mechanics. Like the story only comes through that really deep sort of Zelda mythology. Only really comes through in rare instances.
But also, like, if you look at themes, like, or like, I guess, as, I don't know, it's kind of weird to like say this, but it's kind of like as like an adult gamer or a person who's like playing games, but is like an adult. It's like the themes and like the stuff covered in Nintendo games. It's just like I've like aged out of the stuff that like is in their games, where it's like I don't really care about what's in them anymore. So it's like you have stuff like races have been like Bioshock Infinity, or just like Genocide and Mass Effect and like all this other crazy stuff, but like. Like none of that stuff is even like touched upon in like Nintendo games because they're just so kid friendly and family friendly that they're not going to go there. So it's like you just look at their what's a word? Their legacy. It's like they don't really have very like if any like M-rated like series that they've like made over the span of time that they've been around, like over 20 years. It's like it's all like E for everybody and like so family friendly. That's not like over time like it will appeal less and less to you as you have like other stuff that you're like more interested in, or just it doesn't really strike the same chord as like it used to, like I said before.
So yeah, I guess as far as the original question, maybe it's true and false, because in that case it's like the younger audience isn't getting into Nintendo, who is their target audience, but they're not getting it because they can get mechanics from other places, or their parents are giving it to them from other places. And then the audience that grew up with Nintendo has now outgrown Nintendo. And so it's like on two fronts, Nintendo is losing people. And that's why, we see these abysmal sales figures for Wii U. Yeah. And people are just like, I don't really care anymore.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. Like, if you look at Wii U, it's like, what's on there that I would care about? That's not a game from before this year. Because like all the games that they're basically porting over, it's like old stuff, and like none of the new stuff is being developed, or like when it's being announced, it's not saying also on Wii. It's basically like being left in the dust.
Yeah.
And just nobody pretty much cares.
It's all on you, Nintendo. You want games, you gotta make them.
It's like, yeah, like I said, like if they make a Star Fox, I'll totally be there because like I love that game and like those mechanics are awesome. But it's like that's the other thing about Nintendo games is like you have to wait like 5 to 10, if not more years between installments, and it's like, well, I'm sorry, but I can just move on and play third-party games that are just rolled on out and play just as well.
Was there a Star Fox game on Wii? There wasn't, right?
There was no Wii Star Fox game.
The last one was on GameCube, and it wasn't even a Star Fox. Flying.
Actually, there was or not a 3DS, but a DS one, but I didn't play that one, so it was
there was a DS one?
Command style or something. I forgot what it's called. But it's been a while.
Yes.
And then, like, that's the other thing. It's like, I'm not gonna, like, knock them for doing that, but, like, when they do, like sometimes have games and franchises come out, it's like, how they'll do, like, a Final Fantasy thing where it's like, each iteration is different than the previous one, so it's not the same.
Right.
Over and over. Whereas, like, it's like, you have, like, the R-Wings flying and stuff from, like, Star Fox 64 to, like, the GameCube one that was just
running around.
It was assets used from the dinosaur game or whatever. So it wasn't really like a true Star Fox game, but it was still Star Fox. And then you had like the Namco one that was like kind of like that, but not. And then the DS one was like some. It was, I don't know. I haven't played it. It's different though. So, but yeah.
Man. So, do you think Nintendo? I'm subscribing more and more to the possibility that the Wii U is just going to die.
Ooh.
Do you think that's possible? Because if you think about it, like the last time a console maker died was Sega, right? And
Yeah.
it was Dreamcast. And back in the day, and I don't know specifics, but I remember what people talked about was Dreamcast came out a year before PS2, and at E3 that year, PS2, like, they just basically showed a whole bunch of tech demos. You know, it wasn't even real games. It was just like, oh, here's this, you know, they did the duck thing, and they did, I imagine, like, Metal Gear Solid was probably there. So Metal Gear Solid 2's, you know, debut, and they showed those things, and it wasn't like the PS2 came out and outsold the Dreamcast. It was that people saw that and decided to hold off on Dreamcast and wait for PS2. And so there was that year where Dreamcasts did not sell in the way that they wanted them to. And then, you know, pretty soon after, it's like, well, we're not making them anymore, and they were just out of business. And it feels like the same thing is happening right now, whereas, you know, the Wii, it kind of worked because it came out later, and it was different. So Xbox 360 came out, and then, you know, Wii, they shut off their controller, and everyone just got it. It's like, oh, we understand what this is, and that is really neat. It didn't turn out that way, but when we saw it the first time, it's like, oh, wow, there's lots of stuff that we could do with this. But this time, you know, people aren't really enthused about the second screen, and then, you know, the leap, and just the excitement that we felt for the PS4 reveal stuff, like, I didn't have any of that for Wii U. And so now, you know, because of the way that Sony and Microsoft want to promote themselves, it's happening now when the Wii U needs sales, and people just aren't buying it. I think part of that, yeah, also has to do with we're going to wait and see.
Yeah, I know. I think I mentioned this before about like how the possibility of the Wii getting Dreamcasted, but I do agree, I do agree with that, because like if like just looking at the vitriol of like blowback from like Kinect, Move, and like motion control this gen, because like the possibilities and like the potential, but like none of it was actually realized, and then like we come to like the current gen that we're about to, or the next gen that we're about to go into, and like all that's basically been like drawn back, it seems, and it's like it's not really at the forefront like it was. So it's kind of like both like a lost opportunity and like just lost, or like promises that were broken, and it's like people feel like really jaded about that whole thing. So it's like and then like Nintendo's still trying to like have like the gimmicks of like, oh, we have a pad as a screen, but it's not really important as far as like gameplay.
I think it's getting expensive for people too. Like before, I think there was definitely a time when outlandish controls and, you know, just like different input devices, that was in. You know, we had Guitar Hero on PS2 at the time, and you know, people were like, wow, this is awesome. And then the Wii thing is like, oh, you know, it's like playing real tennis but digitally, and and then, but yeah, like you were saying, I can't even remember why I was excited about the Wii remote. I remember I was excited, I just don't remember why. Because, as we've all seen, it wasn't that exciting. Like, beyond Wii Sports and some other games I can't remember right now, it's like there was not that much cool stuff for the Wii remote.
Yeah, it's kind of like the one game I'm always like prophesizing that like never materialized. It's like there was never that killer app that like, came out that was like, oh,
the
this
game
is like
that
the
came
perfect
out
use
is
of
like,
this.
oh, this is what motion control was made for. It never happened. I still think it will, but I think it's going to be sort of a side thing now. You know, it's going to happen on Move, whereas Move is not this huge thing that everyone has, but someone is going to come up with something, And the people who have it are going to be like, this is why you should get it, and people still won't get it.
Yeah, then like you have other cursory stuff. Like meanwhile on PC in Oculus Rift land, there's all these crazy demos and stuff for that, which is coming out. It's like that looks pretty cool.
Yeah. But I don't,
So like,
the casual audience, who I think were the biggest I don't know if I'd call them casual. They were the people who made like Wii Fit the bestseller that it was.
the fluffers.
Is that what they're? I don't think that's what they're called. I think that means something else. But it was just the best-selling stuff on Wii was all the stuff that came with other stuff. It was like Wii Remote is not enough for you. You've had that experience with Wii Tennis. Here is Wii Fit. It is a balance board that you stand on. It's like, ooh, new thing. And then people love to stand on that. And for a while, Dance Dance Revolution was like that. Oh yeah, Matt. And Guitar Hero was like, oh, plastic guitars, and oh, plastic drum. I guess it just got to be too much. And while we could kind of say that those things were quote unquote cheap, now we have the Wii U, which is not cheap in the way that those things were cheap. And it's still, up to this day, it still has not been well explained, like, what is the advantage of this? And yes, lots of people browse the internet while they watch TV, but that's because they don't really care about either of those things that they're doing. When you're playing a game on your TV, you care what's happening on the TV. How does having the second screen that you're not probably holding up in your face so you can see both at the same time, how's that benefiting people?
Oh, that actually makes me think of the whole like PSP and PS3 like functionality that never materialized for like rear view mirror and really dumb stuff like that.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it kind of seems like they were like regressive in an idea that they thought was, oh, this is such a great idea. But yeah,
it's just it's not what we thought it would be, and then now with the hype trains rolling for the other two consoles, like who has time to? We've been waiting for months. It's been months when they have been the only ones out there. The other people denied that new consoles were coming. They're just like, yeah, we're kind of sort of working on stuff all the time, so no comment. And it's like, Nintendo, this is your time. Like, prove why we need this.
Yeah, they really botched that. They had like 10 to 12 months of no competition on the market.
And now it's too late. Now, the hype train.
See, I think that's what happened though. Is like, well, not everybody, but like people that were burned by the Wii, like me and RPG always talk about, is just like that you just like have that so in your mind of like vividly remembering like the long drawn out times of the year when there'd be no games coming out. It's like you go months at a time, and there's nothing coming out, and you'd have to wait until E3 and be like, oh, what's coming out this year? And it's like, here's some peanuts for your journey through the desert, because there's nothing coming out for another 5 months. Or
it's worse now. I think even since the Wii, now we before we sort of had this unspoken understanding that games wouldn't come out on the Wii. When they announced Battlefield 3, it's like, well, of course it's not going to be on the Wii. But now, like, we're actually getting announcements like, we're not making this for Wii U. And, yeah, like, that... I guess if any of us had the console, we would feel burned. But instead, we can just feel happy that we don't have it, and we are looking forward to the other new consoles.
Yeah, well, and it also makes sense because, like, if you look at like everything third-party publishers have said, it's like, well, our games aren't selling. And it's like, well, why would they keep supporting the platform if it's not making them money? So it makes sense for them to just abandon it like everybody has. And I guess it's just the prophecy has finally come to fruition. And it's like, oh, well, here we are in Nintendo Land with only Nintendo games, and they don't come out at a rate that is really sustainable, so let's see how this works.
So yeah, I think going back to it, I think now I understand why a lot of investors and analysts have been saying that Nintendo should make iPhone games, because they make games with really good mechanics, and if you only care about mechanics, then it's like, well, why do you even need your own hardware?
I'm trying to think of like an analogous situation to that where it's like you have car maker that makes car that everybody wants, and they only buy that car, even though there's all these other cars. But it's like, oh, we have the Nintendo because it's the best one out there. So like all that, like on everybody's phone, it would just be full of Nintendo games because nothing else comes close. That would be really weird though to like see like the like all the charts in the iTunes or whatever just like filled with like the top 10 or top 20 is like all Nintendo stuff. Cause like or like whatever they call that thing when like stuff floats to the top, it's like, oh yeah, 'cause it's just the best, so of course it just floats to the top.
Cream rises. Isn't that what they say?
I don't know.
Wow, this must be different from Mirror Match. Do you guys usually agree?
It depends. Not this much.
We would need a different name.
Oh yeah, do we even talk about RPG and why he's not here, or his whole computer trouble?
We said that his laptop
we did.
beat the dust.
That's right. I said that.
I'm not really sure what's happening with the podcast right now. It's been crazy.
Yeah, you think it would like stabilize after the crazy turbulent last few months, but no, it's just crazier.
It's crazier. I'm planning to do more podcasts now because it seems like things are kind of stabilizing. I can sort of I'm better at interpreting my 4-month-old. So that's I kind of understand what you're saying, even though it's not in any language I know. So I've been finding like I could actually squeeze in some time to do this other thing here and this other thing over here. And I guess, if people don't mind that it's noisy, then I could podcast every week. Or I have to run away mid-sentence to do something. But no, I mean definitely because May 21st is the Xbox reveal.
Yeah.
So
with the new Call of Duty, right?
Yes. How?
I think I'm wondering if I'm going to be as jaded for that as I was with the Battlefield 3 or 4 reveal, because I saw that, I was like, yeah, whatever.
Really?
It did not interest me at all in the least. I was like, yeah, whatever, another shooter. The only way that game would like interest me at all would be like if like the whole promo from like all the masks in it was like actual like different time eras and like it took place in different time eras, but in first person. But I doubt it. That'd be cool, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I doubt it. I don't know. I like the part where you have control over your squad now, or you can kind of tell them what to do. So like the suppression thing that I like to do in multiplayer, I can do in single player now. I was like, that would be neat.
No, I don't think I noticed that. So I only watched it once, and I was like,
Weird, because while I like experience more than mechanics now, the thing I noticed in that was the mechanics. Yeah. Well, let's briefly go over what we've been hearing on the next Xbox. So there was a few megatons. Like originally, all of the news about the next Xbox was bad, or bad in the eyes of most people. It's going to require online connection.
I thought that was so funny. It's like everybody was freaking out, but it was like never explicitly said like this is specifically for DRM. It's just like, okay, it's online all the time, but that hasn't really been.
I mean, for me, it was like, well, my PS3 is online all the time if I can help it, and
yeah, my PC is always online, so
it's just playing. Like if it's not online, I can do other things. But then Yeah, I guess I can see the point or point of view that that would be a bad thing. Um, although, yeah, I feel vindicated now because you know, every time I heard it, it became more and more unlikely in my mind. It's just like, this is impossible. While I favor PlayStation, there is no way that they're going to be like, hey, if you don't have Xbox, if you don't have internet, tough. Don't buy our Xbox. Like, that's impossible. Of course they want to sell as many as they can. And so, like, recently, yeah, it has apparently been pseudo-confirmed that it's not going to require online. It is going to require sort of like a one-time check, like Steam games. So look and see if it's a pirated copy or something like that. But for the most part, the console should just work, whether or not it's online or not. And it's like, yeah, see, that is a totally reasonable thing to assume. And I don't know how it got so crazy that everyone's like, next Xbox is dead because it requires...
That's how the internet works, Tropical. Have you not been on it in the last year or so?
Yeah.
Hysteria everywhere. Ah,
Crazy.
we don't even know if it's true or not. Let's panic and say it's the end of the world, because it is.
So the new stuff now is apparently EA and Respawn's next game, or their first game, is going to be an Xbox exclusive.
Is that confirmed?
No, I don't. I think that one's also still around.
Oh, that's a rumor. Yeah. But to me, I don't really care about that because I know it's just going to be another shooter. So it's like I'm so fatigued at this point. Every time I see one, I'm like, oh, this is in first person. I do not care unless it's like something interesting. So it's like...
Yeah, at first I thought, well, that is a really weird thing to do, because isn't everyone talking about, oh, you don't do third-party exclusive now because you're, like, basically saying, this other half of people who could have bought the game, we don't want your money. But on the other hand, I started to think, well, Respawn, even though it started by the guys who eventually made Call of Duty, they actually haven't done anything.
Yeah, that too. They're unproven.
Yeah, they're totally unproven. So, what is the best way to get your unproven studio notice? Like, well, you could make an exclusive and, immediately, like, without even knowing what it is, half the people will be like, yay! Support my console, and half the people will be like, I don't care about that game. And then when it eventually does come over to your console, you can be like, ha! See, you lost. So suddenly, like, without even announcing your game, you have suddenly become a talking point.
It's like phase 1. Let's exploit the fanboys and pander to them.
Exactly. It works so well. So
half will hate us, half will love us. We'll win either way, it doesn't matter.
Basically, the reviews will come out, and regardless of what they say, the people who own the exclusive console will be like, it's not that bad. While the other side says, it's terrible. Or, it'll come out and they'll be like, it's the best thing ever, and the other side will be like, nah, it's not that good.
It's like, I haven't played it, but...
we have better games on our side. So, after I thought about it, I was like, this might be, like, the smartest thing ever. Because, maybe your first game doesn't do that well in sales, but you got this kind of buzz. Your second game, when it becomes multi-platform or whatever, everyone knows it already.
See, I'm wondering if that's true, because, like, I recently checked, like, the top 10 or top 20 PSN downloads, and, like, Mass Effect is, like, a constant top on there, and I'm wondering if, like, that's because people know about it from, like, all the buzz it got before or, like, when the first one was, like, exclusive all that time.
I feel like that helps a lot in this. Yeah, I don't think the console wars have ever been this hot. And now that they are, I think some of the developers out there are like, we can exploit this. I mean, Fuse, like from Insomniac, do you think, like right now I have no interest in it whatsoever, but I imagine some people are interested only because it was it's from a formerly PlayStation exclusive developer. I don't know. Comment. Comment on what you would think in our what's this on YouTube? On YouTube.
Or on the website or wherever.
I think that would be very interesting. What was the other thing? Oh yeah, the Call of Duty thing. What do we know about that? Oh, that's right. They announced the next Call of Duty Ghosts, and they're going to show it off at the Xbox event. That one's confirmed, right? So we don't know anything except that Call of Duty will be there. Not surprising, I suppose. I actually thought that Ghosts might be sort of the current gen Call of Duty, and there would be actually a different Call of Duty for next gen.
Yeah, I was thinking they might do that, but then I had the same discussion with Buff, and I was like, well, thinking about it, it's Activision. They're not known to leave money on the table, so they would put it out on everything.
Well, I mean, because I'm thinking back to when this generation started, and like the PS2 had Call of Duty Big Red 1.
Yeah.
Whereas the Xbox 360 had Call of Duty, was that 2 or 3?
I think it was 2.
Anyway, yeah, they had different games at the same time because clearly the technology is different. Yeah, I don't know. Like, would you think people would be disappointed by a current gen port to next gen of a Call of Duty game as the first Call of Duty game for the next generation?
But is it really a port, or is it just cross-gen development?
I don't know. Like, what was it? Sleeping Dogs was the first game that everyone was like, oh, that is definitely next gen. Or not Sleeping Dogs, Watch Dogs. And I remember looking at it and thinking, if this is all that we have to look forward to next gen, then next gen is not next gen enough.
Yeah, I remember thinking the exact same thing when the Ground Zeroes demo. I was like, holy crap, this is PS3? That's really amazing.
Yeah, it was like with God of War Ascension recently, it's like, well, this looks incredible. Why do you need... Why, just like with God of War 2, it's like, why do we need the next generation if our current generation looks like this? And, well, some of the stuff they did show on PS4 is like, oh, okay, I kind of see why. But
yeah, like after it's like funny because like how Sony like just does their stuff. It's like after the event, it's like, oh, share button. It's like that's basically like the only thing that's like in my mind the whole time I think about PS4. Every time I think about it, it's like share button.
So I don't know. We'll see about Call of Duty. Yeah, speaking of the share button, they recently revealed that the share button can be disabled by developers. Whereas, so for example, the example they gave was like if there's like a boss fight, like the end of the game, they don't want people spoiling it, so they could actually disable the share button for the end of the game. Did you read about that?
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I saw that they could like disable it for spoilers and stuff, but I didn't like see how it would be like work or how it would be implemented.
Well, the example they gave was basically with the Vita. Like right now on the Vita, if you push the home button and the start button, it takes a screenshot. But it doesn't work in everything. Like you can't do it in, for example, Final Fantasy VII. I don't think you can take screenshots out of. So it's system level because it works even on the menus. But then there's certain times when it doesn't work. And so I think it'll probably be something like that, whereas, like right now, if you push the home button at certain times on the PS3, it brings up that error icon in the corner. It's like, nope, you can't do that right now.
I'm hoping that like there's like a workaround where it just like blacks out the parts that it wants to like not spoil or something, because that would be a pain.
Otherwise, it's just like it just suddenly cuts off while you're playing. If you're live streaming or something. And it's like, I have to restart it. So how do I know when I can do it again? Yeah, hopefully. I guess on a positive note for that, that means that developers do have some access to the share hardware. So I'm wondering if they can do any of those things I was talking about, where it's like you could have, Ghost Recon style, see what all of your teammates see live streamed into your game. That'd be really cool. Yes. So anyway, yeah, hoping to podcast more as sort of a warm-up for E3, which is always insane.
So are we done with the rumor mill?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's what that was. That was rumor.
I guess I just wanted to get your quick opinion on the whole Watch Dogs versus GTA thing. Are you still on the Watch Dogs train? Because after the last trailer, I'm kind of leaning more and more towards GTA and leaning less and less towards Watch Dogs because it looks cool and stuff. But GTA kind of has my heartstrings. So and all these heist things, it's oh man, that was totally calling me.
Yeah. Well. I don't know.
I mean, I'll probably still get both of them. It's I'm still more I used to be all about Team Watch Dogs, but now it's all the way to the opposite, where it's yep, GTA, cannot wait.
I want to share a funny aside. So my non-resistance to hype apparently applies to things beyond gaming as well. I saw this show on PBS, growing a greener planet or something like that, and it was about farmers. It was young people becoming farmers as their career, and I was sitting there and I was like, I want to be a farmer. Anyway, yeah, right now I'm super on the hype roll for PS4 because it just, the first party games from Sony have just become so amazing that if 3 of them come out at launch, it will just be insane. I will not know what to do. But yeah, right now it's all the next gen stuff is really exciting to me, which is weird because anyway. As far as GTA and Watch Dogs, well, with the recent GTA 5 reveals, I am pretty excited, much more excited for that game than I was. Partially, I think, is because with the heist that they've described, it's become very relatable to some of the games that I've been playing recently. Sly Cooper is actually kind of similar in a way, where you prepare for a heist, so all the missions are, and you do get to switch between different characters, and you prepare for the heist, and then you actually do the heist, and in some of them you change between different characters. You don't get to do it on the fly like in Grand Theft Auto, but it's oh, okay, so I can kind of see how that would be awesome. And so yeah, more and more.
Yeah, I haven't read any of the previews. I just saw the bylines of stuff, and I was ooh, it has heist, so I know I'm down for that.
Yeah. And so, recently I just felt, oh man, I need to go back and play their other games. So I went back to play...
I saw that. You're I haven't finished Red Dead. I was Tropical, no! How can you not finish that game?
Too many flowers and herbs, man. Riding around, ooh! I don't think I picked that one yet. But yeah, no, I recently started The Lost and the Damned. Is that the GTA 4?
Yeah, that's the expansion.
Yeah, it
with
turns
the biker
out
dude.
I had never played the episodes. I have
gosh.
played them. And I was I need to play through those. And I remember why, because I was playing Nico Bellic's thing, and I finished his story, and I was hunting the pigeons. And that's when my first That's when my second PS3 died. Or no, that was when my first PS3 died, and I lost my progress. I was like, screw this. And that was 3 years ago. So it's been a while. But yeah, Lost in the Dam, I started playing it. It's like, oh, I see. So, more and more I can see the influence of previous Rockstar games into what I've read about GTA 5. And so that evolution, like seeing where that evolution takes them, is exciting to me. So like, yeah, so GTA 5 does sound really cool. Because like, Lost in the Dam is the same city, but it's a different character, and
yeah, like also the beginning of Ballad of Gay Tony was so cool because it had like the part where Nico intersected with the dude from that game. So like the bank part, and then that was pretty cool.
Yeah, like Lost in the Dam, it was on the radio. Like you were driving around. I was driving around, and suddenly I heard on the radio there was like reports of arson, and it was like an apartment building and a taxi depot were burned down. And I was like, oh, that was that part in the other one. And so yeah.
After playing Resident Evil 6, where like everything was like overlapped and all the characters just interconnected in the story, it's like that is like one of my favorite things in like storytelling is like when stuff does that in stories. So like GTA 5 does that. It's like, man, that's just gonna be so good when like you're switching perspectives of like this person's here when that happens, or like seeing what happens like at one part when like you're as two other characters of like where they're at when that goes down, and just that's gonna be crazy. Just
It just feels like they've well, I like how they've added some of the craziness back into Grand Theft Auto with the fifth one. Because is it Trevor, the crazy?
Oh yeah. The
who somehow knows how to fly a plane. So I was like, yeah, see, this is what I want to do in Grand Theft Auto. So I was like, yeah, there we go. It's back. And I'm hoping that the reason I really like Saints Row the Third was because traveling was cut down to a minimum because I could get essentially a Harrier jet and fly from one mission really quickly to the other ones. And the way that Red Dead did it was there was just lots of stuff to do. Picking the flowers and hunting the stuff, hunting the rabbits and deer and things.
Being attacked by animals.
Yeah, so it's like
we're bandits.
Travel was not just now you have to ride from here to there because
it wasn't boredom. It was like filled with stuff to do.
So it seems like GTA 5 will have more of that also. The thing I read is there's scuba diving. You can actually go underwater now, and it's like, oh, I want it. Yep. Looking more and more exciting. Watch Dogs still kind of excited, but not.
See, that's the thing that I thought about when I was looking at Watch Dogs, the last trailers. I don't think I've seen a part where you're actually in a vehicle yet in that game. So, yeah.
But there must be. How else do you get? Well, I guess you could take the train in Chicago.
Because I was thinking about, it is from Ubisoft, so Assassin's Creed, you weren't actually. You rode horses, but you're never actually in a carriage or something. So, there were some sections, but it wasn't like you're in a vehicle. So. It could be like that, where you're always on foot, but I guess that wouldn't be a bad thing necessarily, because the scale is always still large and open.
I mean, I guess finally I'm sort of beginning to see how, the consoles are kind of old now, with the PCs that we have today, and, you're sort of seeing, kind of next-gen stuff, so, Watch Dogs interests me in that respect, where it's what is a next gen? Even something basic like performance. What is the performance on a next gen open world game going to be like? And Watch Dogs has that. And then Watch Dogs also has a part they haven't really talked about, but it's the connectivity part, where apparently you can, smartphones will be able to interact with the game, so you'll be able to play anywhere. And I don't know how it's going to work, but there's interesting things that they haven't really talked about that are keeping me interested, but I think right now I'm more excited for Grand Theft Auto because I know more about it.
Yeah, I'm still pumped for both. I'm still leaning more towards GTA still. So after months and months of being like, oh man, Watch Dogs looks so good at E3. The reality set in of, oh, that's right, GTA is coming out this year too. It's gonna be, man, and we have like next gen consoles. It's gonna be crazy this fall because it's like so much crap is coming out, and it's so crowded already. Like new Call of Duty, new Battlefield. Like the continual cycle is like still continuing. It's like overlapping with console launches.
Yeah, insane. They'll have so many versions of Call of Duty this year.
And then we got Arkham Origins. It's like, oh my gosh, even though it's not by Rocksteady, I don't care. It's like another Batman game. Yes.
See, I'm like kind of on the fence with that one. On the one hand, yeah, it's another Batman game, and you know they've sort of talked about we're not going to try to fix things that aren't broken. So I imagine it's going to be pretty similar, but with like a different story. But then there was that thing I was talking about where you need a guy to keep, you know, to sort of fight for the things that make the franchise cool. And Rocksteady clearly had people like that working on Batman, and I'm not sure that WB Montreal does as well. You know, like the thing with the thugs still breathing on the ground after you knock them out. Who thought of that? Like, it must have been just one guy. It couldn't have been something where the team was all together and it's like, so this is one thing that we have to put in. It must have been one guy who's like, you know, this should be in there because he doesn't kill him. And then it was in there. It's like, and that just adds to the coolness of the game. I'm excited for the Vita game, though. That sounds pretty neat.
Yeah, I saw that like the 3DS had like a Metroidvania, so I was like, ooh, I can get that one too. Hopefully it's awesome.
Oh, so much stuff.
And we're slowly approaching E3, and it's only getting more crazy.
I know. We can go on like this forever because I haven't been on in so long. There's just like there's so many games that are coming out this summer, like downloadable games. The Ninja Turtle games is sounding really awesome. Crap, can't remember any of the other ones, but it's just
Isn't Last of Us next month in June?
Yeah, Last of Us is. I think it's the week of E3.
Oh my gosh!
So E3 happens on Monday and Tuesday are the big press events. Then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are the, you know, hands-on, and we watch live shows or whatever. And then that Friday is the launch of The Last of Us.
Actually, there's like quite a few June games this year.
Are there?
I think so. Cause there's one I can't think of right now, but there's stuff coming out.
Amazing. It is a good time.
Yeah, it's like we used to be all doom and gloom. Everything's going to end. It's going to be a giant crash, but things are looking up.
Yep.
So I guess we can end it there, and we actually have a interview coming soon. So
I know.
We'll be putting that up soon after this is posted, or not soon, but whenever we get that posted, after this is posted.
That'll be exciting. We've never done this before, so we'll ask our guest for forgiveness first. Nah, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it feels.
So I guess we can sign off until next time.
Yep.
The dynamic duo of Tropical and Tegan.
How?
Bam. So yeah, I guess that's it for Mirror Match number 7. And until you see or hear from us at Aimless Podcast, feel free to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, or wherever. And until you hear or see from us again, we're now signing off.